Have you ever heard of Eugene the Mummy? It's a strange story out of Ohio, and the internet says it's true. Hey, welcome. Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds made up, but it's really true, part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent. This is episode 148, and we're back with a new episode this week. My travels have been amazing. I performed on the inaugural cruise of the Venezia, which is Carnival's newest ship. I was on that cruise for 11 days across the Atlantic Ocean, then went to Halifax, then New York. I did 6 shows in Chicago at the Chicago Magic Lounge, 3 shows back in Ohio at the Peak 3 Magic Theater. It's been a busy time, but I'm having so much fun performing shows. I do have a couple shows coming up in Columbus, Ohio, July 20 and 21 with Eric Diddleman. Those tickets are available for sale now. Go to upfrontps.org for those. We've had a few more signups to the Patreon. I'm thankful for that. Become a Tiziter. That's the name for the patrons of the show. Patreon.com/Michael Kent. And you can sign up for a free trial. And after that, pay as little as $1 a month. Welcome to new Tiziter Jake S. We're happy to have you on board. Once again, that's patreon.com/Michael Kent. So for this week's episode, we'll be going to Sabina, Ohio. But first, we'll take a little detour through London, England, and Oklahoma. For the last several years of his life, Jeremy Bentham carried a set of glass eyes in his pocket everywhere he went. Bentham was an English philosopher, and he's widely regarded as the father of modern utilitarianism. His ethical theories about morality and happiness are still studied today. But Bentham had a bizarre notion about how his body should be treated after his death. He wanted to be dissected for science and then put on permanent display forever. And the glass eyes in his pocket were for that very reason, to give the mummified and stuffed version of Bentham the look of being alive. In practice, it did not go as planned. Bentham's head was the only part of his body that was preserved, and it went horribly wrong. So in an attempt to comply with the philosopher's wishes, his bones were posed into a sitting posture, adorned with his clothing, and a wax head was placed on top. His real head, it was only partially mummified, was placed at the feet of the figure, and the entire thing can be seen to this day at the entrance to the Student Center at the University College London. The head no longer sits at the feet, it's now in a case above him, but it's pretty gruesome looking, and the wax figure looks like any wax figure. You'd never know that it contained the man's real skeleton. It's a strange case of the corpse of a human being displayed according to their wishes. But in Oklahoma in 1911, Elmer McCurdy was another story. 3 Osage County sheriff's deputies, along with a small posse of other men, had cornered McCurdy in a hay shed. He'd been accused of a train robbery. McCurdy was a known criminal and lifelong alcoholic. He set out to rob a train that was carrying $400,000 in cash. When he and his men stopped the train, that's when they learned it was the wrong train. There was hardly any money on the train they robbed, so they stole some whiskey and $46. And when the men cornered McCurdy in the shed, he'd been up all night drinking the whiskey he stole and coughing from his tuberculosis. McCurdy began firing a gun at the men, and they returned fire, killing him. McCurdy's body was taken to the local funeral parlor, where his body went unclaimed. It seemed he had no next of kin, and back then, when the body went unclaimed, they embalmed it with an arsenic-based preservative that kept the body preserved for much longer than usual, and that's what Undertaker Joseph Johnson did. Then he decided to dress it in street clothes, put a rifle in its hands, and put it on display in the back of his funeral home. He charged a nickel for people to come and peer at, quote, the Oklahoma outlaw, the bandit who wouldn't give up. Johnson displayed the body and charged people to see it for the next 5 years or so, until 2 men claiming to be McCurdy's brothers showed up to take the body and bring it to California for burial. That was a lie. The 2 men really worked for a traveling carnival and promptly put McCurdy's body on display in their traveling sideshow tent. They billed it as the outlaw who would never be captured alive. My guess is that they did not tell the onlookers that the man they were looking at had only stolen $46. McCurdy stayed with the Pattersons, that sideshow, until 1922, and was then sold to a traveling museum of crime. He was displayed along with wax figures of Jesse James and Bill Doolin. And it went on like this, with McCurdy spending a few years here and there being displayed at random traveling museums. At one point, he was even displayed in the lobby of a movie theater to promote a film. The body was displayed as a, quote, dead dope fiend to promote the Dwayne Esper film Narcotic. Eventually, the life of McCurdy the Mummy long outlasted what would have been the natural life of McCurdy the living outlaw. In 1967, it was featured in a David Friedman film, She-Freak, and was displayed in a funhouse in Long Beach, California. By this point, most people didn't even know the figure was an actual human corpse. While filming an episode of The $6 Million Man, a prop master moved the body and the arm fell off. When they saw bone and tissue, they took it to the LA coroner's office, and it took 10 years, but by 1977, McCurdy's body was finally laid to rest in the Boot Hill Cemetery back in Oklahoma. Concrete at least 2 feet deep was poured over the body to ensure it wouldn't be taken for display ever again. And that brings us to a similar story, one that happened here in Ohio. I'll tell you the story of Eugene the Mummy after a quick break from our sponsors. I've got to tell you about this new advertiser with the show, and it may be a company that you've never heard of before. It's called Smart Labels, and basically, if you have a company with inventory, they are making the management of that inventory as simple and affordable as it can be. So this is perfect for small business owners. Here's basically how it works. You buy that Smart Labels QR code stickers on Amazon, right? And then the stickers come, you put one on one of your containers or even like on a shelf. You download the Smart Labels app on your mobile device, and all you have to do is scan the code. The app creates a digital container for you. Then you can just write down all the information about the items that you're cataloging. And then you just take a picture, put that on the file. Super easy to do. You'll have all your inventory easily searchable right in the palm of your hand. And a sticker pack only costs $16. The subscription, this is amazing, $30 a year. You can't beat that. So even if you just want to be super organized at home or maybe in your garage, but this is like really perfect for small business. Get your Smart Labels stickers on Amazon today. Once again, they are called Smart Labels. You're going to want to check them out. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsayitstrue.com/deals for the link. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent.
We're living through the most dynamic time in human history, and what we do as leaders matter. We are the ones that create the leverage to shift directions of our companies, our nonprofits, and our communities. As a leader or an emerging leader, please join me for a dynamic conversation with top thought leaders, academics, and executives to learn more about how to elevate your leadership. I'm Maureen Metcalf. Join us at the WCBE podcast experience at wcbe.org.
I'm going to preface the story of Eugene the Mummy with a disclaimer. This is an unsolved mystery, so if you're the kind of person who needs your stories to be wrapped up with a tidy little bow and a nice button on the end, I apologize in advance. That said, it's still an unbelievable story.
A corpse that now rests in a simple grave in the town cemetery.
If you visit the town cemetery in Sabina, Ohio, there's a grave that's often visited as a roadside attraction. It reads, Eugene, found dead 1928, buried 1964. Like the story of Elmer McCurdy, the corpse was left unburied for decades. So back in 1928, the body of an unknown black man was found on the side of the road. The story was that he was coming to Sabina looking for work, but he never made it. He had died of natural causes. When authorities went to identify the man, they had trouble. He carried no ID, no names anywhere on him. All he had was $1.40 and a small slip of paper that read 1118 Yale Avenue. The police thought this was a clue to the man's home, so they went to the address, which existed in Cincinnati. It was a vacant lot. Now, apparently a man named Eugene lived near that lot, so they began referring to the deceased as Eugene, while the real Eugene just kept on living. Townspeople had claimed to have seen the man walking around the day before. They said he looked ill. While the story of the outlaw in Oklahoma was one of exploitation, for Eugene, the story is more about the desire to identify the mystery man. Littleton Funeral Home in Sabina received the body of the man and they embalmed it like normal, but they didn't know who to contact to claim it, so they put it out in an open shed near a bus stop behind the funeral home for people to see. Eugene was dressed and laid out on a couch for display. And if you remember back to the episode we did about the most kissed girl in the world in France, you may remember that it was a common thing in the old days to put a body on display when it was unidentified. So today that would be a super weird thing to do. We might just see an artist drawing of the face and they put it on the news. But back then, people didn't think twice about walking by this shed and seeing a dead body lying on a couch. Littleton really wanted someone to come claim the body, and no one did. 30 days came and went, and the funeral home was still displaying Eugene's body. Instead of being disgusted at the sight, the town came to think of Eugene as sort of a macabre mascot. Months went by, and Eugene was still on display. Then years. Eugene's embalming had now mummified him, and everyone in Sabina and surrounding cities knew about Eugene the Mummy. They would come to visit him, and curious kids would take road trips from all over Ohio to see the mummy man of Sabina. And all the while, the man was never identified. Newspapers and television ran stories. No one claimed to know him. Occasionally, Eugene was the subject of pranks by local teens. They'd steal the body and take it to various places around town. Police would find the body and then call Littleton to come retrieve it. And this went on for 36 years. Finally, in 1964, one of those pranks led to the end of Eugene's posthumous career as a tourist attraction. Students at The Ohio State University in Columbus woke up to see a mummified man dressed in a sharp suit lying on one of the benches on High Street near campus. The story of Eugene by this point was pretty well known around Ohio, so authorities called Littleton Funeral Home in Sabina, an hour away, and asked if they were missing their mummified man. Turns out they were. It was after this, and believe it or not, it wasn't the first time Eugene had been brought to Ohio State for a prank, that the owner of the Littleton Funeral Home decided it was time to finally put Eugene to rest. They held a simple ceremony, and while Eugene had been a public figure in the town for decades, no one knew him in life, and not many people attended his memorial. He was buried without fanfare in the small Sabina cemetery. His tombstone is a simple stone flat to the ground under a tree. Eugene, found dead 1929, buried 1964. It was later corrected to read found dead 1928. And if you don't know this story, if you've never heard it, you'd never know it was there. Besides maybe noticing that gravestone is often covered with coins from people who have heard the story and made the pilgrimage to Sabina just to pay homage. 94 years later, no one has ever claimed to know the man that turned up missing. And at this point, it's likely that no one ever will. But to the people of Sabina, Ohio, his legend will live on forever. The internet says it's true. Now's the time of the podcast where I call a friend, and today we're calling my friend Glenn Tickle. Glenn's a comedian from New Jersey who has appeared on Dry Bar Comedy, Travel Channel, Cozy TV, and can be heard on Sirius XM. He has millions of views on TikTok, and his new special called The Hardest Last Name You Can Ever Have is out now. You can go and see that now. What's going on, Glenn? Good to have you back.
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Did I get all that right? Is all that accurate?
I think except for the very end. I think that's what Drybar titled the YouTube video of the special
Oh.
when they put it up. The special's called The Favorite.
The Favorite.
But if you look for that, what you said, it'll also come up.
So you took the time to think about a nice title for your Dry Bar comedy special, and they were like, let's just take one of the jokes.
Yeah,
and
if you
make
watch
that
it on Drybar, like on their platform, it shows up as The Favorite, and for whatever reason on YouTube,
that's weird.
They went with that.
That's hilarious. Well,
I've had people get mad at me over that. They're like, "It's not. There's harder names. I'm not saying there aren't. That wasn't my log line."
Tell Drybar. Yeah. Okay. Well, just you go on YouTube, go on wherever, go on Drybar, search for Glenn Tickle, and you'll find his stuff.
And I got another one coming out later this year.
I'm excited for that. When and where we'll be able.
It'll
to
be
watch
on
that.
my YouTube channel, and I'm not 100% sure when yet.
Okay.
It's looking
Awesome.
like August or September.
And this is all new material? Like you've just started fresh with all new material for this one?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think it's anything that's been recorded anywhere else.
So you've been working these new jokes on the road right now?
I've been trying to. It's been a weird couple of years for developing new material.
I bet.
Because I've been doing a lot of corporate shows, which aren't the most conducive platform for trying stuff out. I've also been doing a lot of online shows, which is kind of the same thing. Like I've gotten used to them. I know performers complain about having to do Zoom shows and stuff. I'll keep doing them forever, but it's tough to generate, or it's tough to try out new material in them. I have, even in the new special, there's a bit about how most of the shows that I've done since 2020 have been from the shed in my yard.
Yeah, but you did one in your car the other day.
Yes, when we both happened to be in Chicago.
Yeah, yeah, and I texted you. I was like, "Are you still there?" And you're like, "No, I'm just driving through." But I saw you were performing, but that's just because you were performing in your car.
Yes, I was driving home from, I think, Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay,
and I had a virtual show to do. That my goal was to get to the hotel room for the night before I had to do that show, but traffic going through Chicago made that impossible. So I ended up doing it. I parked on a street in Chicago, climbed in my back seat, and did a virtual show for an hour. Well, the dream, what we all aspire for.
Your LTE or your 5G signal might have been better than the hotel internet anyway. So maybe
that is a real concern traveling around doing virtual shows.
I haven't done one.
It is sometimes you got to see which one is the stronger signal.
I haven't had to do one from a hotel room yet. And I've done them. I've done a lot of them from down here where I have a great signal and everything. But doing them from a hotel room is scary because they don't. I mean, there was one time my friend Brian did a study, kind of like a really informal study about which hotel chains had the best internet. And I don't,
it's not Red Roof Inn. I know that.
It's not any of them. They're all bad.
Yeah.
And some of them, I know, like the Hilton chains and I believe the Marriott chains too. If you're a member, you can get a faster speed, or if you pay for it, you can get a faster speed. But even then, I wouldn't trust it for anything, man. That's just, hotel internet is hotel internet. It's just not good. It's not meant for that type of thing,
No.
So I've been.
It's meant for porn.
It's
what it's meant for.
It barely does anything. I mean, it's it's good for checking email, and even then, it's a little dicey. I've been all over the place, man. I've been exhausted. And so this is the first new episode I've done in a month. We've been doing rewind episodes while I've been on the road. And so this will actually come out a week from tomorrow when we're recording this. Perfect. So, and it's a weird one. It's a story that happened in Ohio. So for this first question, we're playing for a joke.
Yeah.
And if you get it wrong, you've got to tell me a joke. And if you get it, if you get it right, I'll tell you a joke. This story is about a mummy named Eugene. Which one of these describes Eugene?
Okay.
A mummified man found in the ground when they went to build a skyscraper. B, an unidentified body put on display for almost 40 years. Or C, the mummified remains of the first person lost in space, which are naturally mummified and still in orbit to this day.
Don't think it's that one. I think did you say this was in Ohio?
I did, yeah. So your options
are, Ohio's not in space.
Well,
I mean, everything is in space.
Neil Armstrong was from Ohio.
Yeah, but he's not.
John Glenn, also from Ohio.
Or currently in space.
Yeah.
I have a joke on the new special where I say that more astronauts who've walked on the moon have come from New Jersey than any other state. And I did it specifically to irritate one person because I know he's going to hear that and know that it is incorrect.
It's probably Ohio, right? I mean,
I think I think a lot of them have been from Ohio. I don't know if any are from New Jersey. It just feels like they should be. But I say it when I'm listing like celebrities from New Jersey. People. Yeah.
So
take that, Brian.
So C is out. You're not saying
I don't
it's a person
think it's
lost
C,
in space.
just because if it's in Ohio, then it's not. He's not also going to be orbiting.
Okay.
The planet. B is a thing that happened. There was like a dead body on display in I think it was one of the Ripley's museums for decades that people didn't know was a real body. But I don't know if that was in Ohio. And I don't remember what A was.
A
so
was
I guess we'll go with.
Oh, I was going to say A was a mummified man found in the ground when they went to build a skyscraper.
I mean, Ohio's not really known for its skyscrapers.
That's true.
And you got a couple big buildings over there. I've driven through many times. Yeah. I've seen them.
They're not scraping the sky as much as they are pointing at it.
Yeah, I forget. I think the definition of skyscraper has changed as construction methods have gotten better. I think initially it was if you were above 10 stories.
Oh, wow.
Because in the 30s or whatever, people are like, oh, there's no way.
Yeah.
You die up there. You can't breathe at 10 flights up.
Right.
I got to go B. I think it's B.
The answer, believe it or not, is B, an unified body. So, yeah, there have been a couple of these stories. The one in Ohio was it was actually 36 years. They found this guy on the side of the road. The funeral home itself was the one that put him on display and had him on display in the same spot, sitting on a couch in a shed behind the funeral home, which was next to a bus stop. And for 36 years, this guy they called Eugene, the mummy, just lived there and no one ever claimed him. There is one that did make the rounds in like fun houses and things like that. That was a different guy. And he was basically a train robber that.
Yeah, that's the one I think I was thinking of.
Yeah, his name was Elmer McCurdy. That's a different one. That was out in Oklahoma. And he did make the rounds in different museums and traveling things. And then finally they were filming an episode of The $6 Million Man. And the prop master of the show moved what he thought was a prop. And the arm fell off and he saw like bones and, muscle and stuff. And he was like, oh, shit, it's a real body.
So the funeral home, they did this on purpose?
Yeah, they were trying to, the idea in the beginning was like, we need to identify this dude. And because no one knew who he was, the only identifying thing he had was an address in his pocket, and the address was to an empty lot. So they didn't have any clues. They called him Eugene because another dude that lived near that address was called Eugene, who was still living, by the way. Like, how'd he feel about them just naming this dead body Eugene?
They have this dead body. They don't know who it is or who might want it. So they're like, just leave it outside. Somebody will come get it.
Yeah,
that is wild.
At least maybe, lots of people will see it because it's by the bus stop. Like I was doing a story.
There's like at best a 2 to 3 day window, I imagine, where that is going to be recognizable as your uncle or whoever.
You would think. Yeah, you would think. But back then word traveled. I mean, we're talking about the 1929 when they found him. So and then he was on display until 64, I believe, or 67, something like that. So like the interesting thing about this,
humans are gross.
Is I did an episode about all the people that used to fall into the river Seine in Paris, and they would be unidentified. And in downtown Paris, they would lay these people out to be identified. That's just how they did it back then. And this predates this story, but people would that's just basically that was their version of the milk carton or whatever else.
That makes more sense than our friend Eugene to me. Although I think famously people don't do well once you fall in a river. So again, a question of like being recognizable when you get yanked out of there.
Yeah. So
you're hoping somebody remembers what shirt you had on,
Right. And this guy had, I don't know what he had on, but they did put him in like a new fresh suit every once in a while. For 36 years, they kept changing the suit.
That's not going to help.
No, it's not.
You got to keep
their clothes at this point.
The original clothes.
And
that's
plus,
what people
once
you recognize.
Once you get
not a skeleton,
they mummified the dude basically. They embalmed him, and then after a couple decades, you're not looking like you used to look. So it went from being an effort to identify the guy to being sort of a fixture of the town where,
What town is this?
It was actually called Sabina, Ohio. It's spelled like it should be Sabina, but from what I've heard, it's pronounced Sabina. It's about
There's
an hour
towns
from here.
all over the country that are spelled one way and pronounced another.
Yeah, so and Ohio is good at that.
Maddening.
Yeah, so
as a guy who travels around saying,
totally.
"Hey, thank you, town name, for having me."
Sure,
and then getting screamed at.
They yell at you. Yeah, this is Sabina, Ohio, and it's a whole thing for them. The people there played pranks, and like the teenagers would steal the mummy and then put it in different places around town. And actually, the thing that stopped this, the thing that made them want to bury Eugene finally, was people from Columbus were coming and stealing. Like college students were stealing it and bringing it to Ohio State and putting it on park benches out on High Street. And finally, the funeral home said, "Okay, we got to put an end to this." So they finally buried him.
Ruin most things, so why not this?
Yeah. We never had dead people on park benches on purpose when I was in college.
I don't remember any mummies in college. There was a trend where people would buy a flat screen TV and then throw their old CRT out the window and off the balcony.
Yeah,
in the one townhouse area of campus. That happened like 6 or 7 times.
I bet that was like a thing across a lot of campuses when that switchover was happening, because the CRT TVs were useless anyway. And you know, I don't know about then, but
like
now
you buy a flat screen. What are you going to do with?
You have to
this
pay
giant
people.
Old TV,
right?
Throw it off a balcony, because why not?
Why not?
You're not the one who's going to have to clean it up.
Sure. Yeah, you're in college. There's other people to do that for you. In my house that I lived in college, there were like 6 of us, and we had a sledgehammer that we affectionately called Sweet Caroline. And when something would break electronics-wise, we would go out in the front yard and just smash the shit out of it like Office Space,
There is already another song just called Sledgehammer.
There is.
So I don't know why you didn't just call
it'd be weird to call a sledgehammer. It'd be
this is my sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel. That's what I would.
That is a better idea. We weren't as witty, and none of us were professional comedians. So, all right, I owe you a joke. Speaking of comedy, and this is very far from comedy. This is a joke for kids. Why do mummies have trouble making friends?
Because they're gross.
Yeah, but they are also too wrapped up in themselves.
Well done.
Indeed. Yeah, boo. I looked up a lot of mummy jokes to try to find a good one, and I couldn't find a good
one. The one I had prepared was a scarecrow one that I think I might have told on the show before. So it's probably better that you had that mummy one ready.
Yeah. You want to tell it again? Just for the...
Sure. Why did the scarecrow get a promotion?
Why?
Because he's outstanding in his field.
See, that's a good joke.
I love it so much.
That's a good joke.
I wish I could take credit for it. It's just a little kid joke I heard once. I'm like, that's perfect.
Does anyone
10 out of 10
in our era take credit for like street jokes? Is that a thing? I mean, because there are no like, Milton Berles and Henny Youngmans of our age.
There's still people in the world who think it is my job as a professional comedian to like go through joke books and like pick the ones I like, and those are the ones I do on stage.
Like you've got Post-it notes, dog-eared pages of joke books. Like tonight's going to be this one.
I mean, that is sort of how vaudeville worked for a while.
Sure,
but that's not really been the system for about 100 years.
What if?
But there are still people who think I just read a joke book, hoping against all hope that somebody wrote some great jokes about what if there was someone whose last name was Tickle. I'm generating all this material, and they just don't believe it.
I bet like some of the Mitch Hedberg jokes could possibly make it into a street joke style thing that people might say. Like some of those one-liners.
And I've certainly heard
Stephen
a bunch
Wright
of comics do Mitch Hedberg jokes as if they had written them.
Is that right? That's sad.
As if they're trying to pass it off as just like, oh, this is a thing. We've all heard this one. Nah, one guy wrote that.
Does that happen a lot in comedy? Is that a thing that
people do specifically Mitch Hedberg jokes, or
just other people's jokes? Yeah, stealing jokes.
I feel like open mic level. It's probably pretty common where a lot of the times sometimes it's just like a pretty obvious joke. It's just somebody got to it first and you didn't know that. Other times it's like, I don't know, man. Sometimes it is just people just saying their favorite jokes into a microphone for 5 minutes. And then other times people do just like clearly straight up steal jokes, which I don't understand. At least try to hide it. Like change some names around. Do something.
Yeah, the joke with magicians is that they'll steal a card trick, but then they'll use red cards instead of blue cards.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You know, it is pretty common in Magic because there are only 9 tricks in Magic, and everything else is just changing the way that it is performed. So.
I feel like there's most of the tricks I can think of, like a lot of them are variations on a theme, kind of.
Sure. Yeah, you can only do a few things.
It's like ballet. Like there's a certain number of positions, and you just gotta mix them around.
That's absolutely how it is. All right, we'll move on to the next question. We're gonna play for a joke that never worked out. So, like maybe this is one that you workshopped and it just didn't hit. Which one of these is the official town motto of Sabina, Ohio? Is it A, the Eden of Ohio, B, home of patriotism, or C, Ohio's promised land?
I mean, these all sound equally
bad and
like
plausible,
dumb, but like possible.
Yeah.
Again, like I travel the country professionally, and I usually do it by driving. So like I drive through a lot of towns that will have a sign that say like, "Oh, #1 Patriot City," like that stuff, and then I know that's probably not where I want to stop for gas. Hit me with the choices again.
The choices were the Eden of Ohio, home of patriotism, or Ohio's promised land.
Man, I'm gonna eliminate B just because I hope it's not that one.
Okay.
A and C, I feel like you could plausibly tell me it used to be one and they changed it to the other.
Sure.
I gotta go A, I guess.
The answer is A. It's the Eden of Ohio. Yeah.
That was a 1 in 3 guess. I had no idea.
You're right. Any of these could have been equally. I don't even know what that means. The Eden of Ohio. Like, I looked up facts about Sabina. It's a small town. There's only 2,500 people.
Well, it's the Eden of Ohio.
It's the Eden of Ohio. And besides that, knowing that, it's 97% white. I tried to find like more interesting.
I hope
facts.
That's not what they mean by the Eden of Ohio.
What if it was? What if they were?
I mean, then that would sound an awful lot like choice B.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Eden of Ohio, so everybody's naked, and you're not allowed to eat fruit.
And it's the home of patriotism. I tried to find more interesting facts about Sabina, but literally the story of Eugene the Mummy is the only one. It's the only thing
that's
that I
hard
could
to
find
beat.
about
If you're looking for notoriety as a small town, having a weird mummy friend for half a century is like top tier small town
you
stuff.
can't get better than that. That's right. It is really
that sounds like an episode of Deadwood where they're just like they leave. I guess it's not, because why would they leave Deadwood in the show called Deadwood? But
no, it really was like, you know, that type of thing where, you know, they would put someone out on display if they got caught cheating at cards and they killed them, you know, they'd put them on display for everyone to know. In this case, it was just because they couldn't identify the guy. But in the case of the other guy,
was some guy.
Yeah, in the case of that other guy,
Did they do DNA tests or anything now?
Have
we cracked this case?
No, he's still
Is
unknown.
Serial season 5?
Yeah, it should be. No, he's still unknown, and I don't like. They could. I mean, he's buried. They know where he's buried. They could do that, and find some relatives.
Yeah.
But then again, all these relatives are probably dead too. He might have like
they're probably.
great,
he died in 1929.
29. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all also probably dead.
Yeah.
Someone come get your dead great grandpa.
Yeah,
figure this out.
Let's figure it out.
23 and me, Eugene.
23 and me. For this next, what do we do for that one? It was a joke that never worked out.
A joke that never worked.
Oh, okay. So this is one that I don't know. I did it twice. I only told this joke on the ship a couple weeks ago, and I don't know that I'm going to keep it, but I've been wearing this like this outfit that's like kind of a late 70s throwback with like a blue plaid and white sneakers, like a white like loafers.
I've seen the pics. You looking fresh,
right? So, but it's also very like used car salesman. Yeah. So I wanted to address that elephant in the room when I came out. So I was opening the show with this, and I don't think it's written right yet. So the joke is this. You know, hey, how do you like the fit? Do you like the jacket? It's not too used car salesman. Anyway, I recently was able to leave my day job to do magic full time. applause, whatever. I hope I don't have to go back, but just know if the show doesn't go well, I can put you in a 2003 Ford Focus, no money down.
See, I like that.
It's not bad. And I added a tag. Actually, that's not true. 20% down is standard. So, yeah, it's okay, but it didn't get what I wanted. It didn't get a good reaction, and it's the top of the show. So,
I guess it's different for magicians because having kind of the same outfit is, I imagine, important.
Yeah, kind of. For most magicians, it is probably more than me. I only really try to stick to the same outfits for like branding. But all I really need is a pocket, outside pockets in a jacket so I can put stuff in them. That's all I need. And I only really need two of those pockets. So, and one inside pocket. I need a banana pocket in my jacket.
Everyone does.
Where
else are you going to keep your banana?
I'm picking up on Tuesday. I had this jacket custom made. And when I was sitting down with the clothier and the stylist, and I told her I needed a banana pocket, the question was, well, how long is a banana? What's that? And so I had to Google in front of them average banana length, which is, by the way, 6 to 7 inches, just so you know. So, and so there's going to be a dedicated banana pocket in this new jacket.
I hope it's made of a material that's easy to clean, because I feel like
it's a fake banana, but so it doesn't matter.
Come up.
It's a banana that looks real. It's just that anything in the show that I can make fake, I will. Yeah, because just traveling, it's a pain in the butt. I already have to.
I've only done it once, and it kind of worked. It was actually in that car show that we talked about. But I did a bit where, because a guy on the internet didn't like a joke that I did, and he told me not to quit my day job.
Oh no.
Which is like kind of a heckle. Yeah. But also, this is my day job. So if you don't like my comedy, you should want me to quit my day job. But also, like, this is I do this because I like it, but also because I'm not good at other jobs. Like, if I have a bad show, there's no real repercussions. But if I quit being a comedian and I get a different job, like, there might be consequences. Like, I shouldn't be in charge of the controls of anything, for example. And then I was like trying to talk about the possible butterfly effect of if I had Homer Simpson's job or whatever at a nuclear power plant. I'm like, yeah, we'd all die. I don't think it would be bad if I quit my day job.
And eventually it would be on the evening news that someone let someone who was a comedian do this other job.
Former comedian derails train. Why was he there in the first place?
Exactly.
I agree. I shouldn't have been.
Hey, in Ohio, there's a guy that's a comedian who's a mayor. So what are you going to do? I mean, there's lots of opportunities out there for us. So this is a tell me what to Google. That's the old show. The internet says it's true sticker. It's 3 inches by 3 inches and it's sticky. And you can win that if you get this next question right. The question is, how many people are buried in Arlington National Cemetery's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? Is it 1, 3, or 16?
None of those are what I was going to guess.
Oh, no. Well, from my research, which I'll admit was not deep, it's either A1, B3, or C16.
1's too obvious. It wouldn't be a question if it was 1. 16 does seem like a lot.
Especially if it's like one normal size grave.
Yeah.
Like a clown car of soldiers.
Well, I imagine you go vertical.
Oh yeah, you could do that. You go foot to head, and then head to foot, and then foot to head.
No, I mean, like, they're laid out.
Oh.
Just stacked up.
Oh,
I'm thinking like Pringles can more than like.
Yeah, but like I'm just saying, you optimize the space. If the guy that's on top of the other guy is laid the different direction, and then the other guy's the other direction. It's like if you stack a bunch of magazines, it starts to tilt. So you have to stack some of them the other direction.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
When you're stacking unknown bodies.
Oh, this is horrible. I'm going to get letters for this one.
Address them to Eugene.
Okay.
I'm going to say 3, but I don't feel good about it.
The answer's 3. You're 3 for 3. The tomb began with 1 unknown service member from World War I. Today, it's the grave of 3 unidentified service members. Its meaning has evolved to represent the memory of all military members throughout American history.
I was
So-
gonna if it wasn't multiple choice, I was gonna guess 0.
Oh, interesting.
Thinking like it might have just been a monument, or
just a
they
memorial.
took the original body out of there and like identified it and moved them.
Why not do 23andMe on those folks?
Yeah.
So, there are 3, but it's
definitely don't put 16 in there. Though.
No,
That's
but what happened like when there was a 4th guy that was unidentified and they had the decision to make? Like, do we put him in with the other 3, or do we stop this now and just make it symbolic?
I don't know what the thought process was of let's go. We can fit a couple more in here.
Have you ever been? Have you seen the changing of the guard there?
I've been to the cemetery. I don't know if I saw that specifically. It was like a Boy Scout trip when I was a kid.
Pretty cool. Guy I know who was in the Navy did a video project when he was in the Navy for AFN about the way that they like take care of their uniforms and how strict it is. It's really interesting stuff. Also, if you really want to go down a YouTube wormhole, search for videos where those guards that guard the tomb yell at people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun because they really do like stop what they're doing and yell at people, even if they're laughing or walking in the wrong area or whatever. They'll stop and like loudly yell. So it's kind of
what do they yell? Like knock it off? That like
they have spiels that are like that they've memorized. So if someone's like laughing or whatever, they yell something along the lines of, "It is requested that everyone maintain silence and decorum," or something like that during this time.
Yeah. That'd be me.
Yeah, and if I think there's one where he's just yelling, "Get off of the steps," because someone's walking up the back of the memorial. They don't realize what it is.
Yeah.
So, language
I would
barriers
probably laugh.
Yeah, it's hard.
Not because I think it's funny before you get letters. Just
but one of those things that if
it's
someone
what
tells
I do
you
when
not
I'm
to laugh,
uncomfortable or nervous. Like,
no, I get it. Especially like, there could be a lot of things that make someone laugh. Like if you're with a friend who there's some inside joke from earlier that comes up, and it's everyone knows it's the most inappropriate time to laugh, but sometimes something happens and you can't help it.
I talked about it in my special Good Grief, but probably 2 of the hardest times I laughed in my life are at my grandmother's funerals.
Really?
And and it's because one time my nephew yelled "choo choo" real loud in the middle of the mass.
Okay.
Which obviously hilarious.
Right.
And then the other one was I got trapped in the viewing room. Or so I guess the one was the funeral, one was the viewing the night before.
Right.
We were in the viewing room with my grandmother's rosary group, who wanted to pray the entire rosary with my grandma one last time,
Okay.
which is like a really nice thought, but the rosary takes forever. So I was like trying to get out of the room really fast, and we got like locked in, and I immediately started laughing at how I'm just going to have to stand here for the next, what's going to feel like 3 hours listening to a bunch of old women pray around my dead grandma. And what could be more funny than that?
Yeah, that's a long prayer. I don't know what the rosary is like.
It's you say a lot of prayers in a row.
I know in Buddhism the mala is 108 beads, and I don't know if it's similar.
It's comparable.
It's
like
a
they
long
measure
time.
the groups of beads in decades on the rosary. I forget how many there are.
My wife's parents would be able to tell me, or any of my Catholic friends, but I really have no idea.
I should know. My child would probably know, but I have no idea.
Well, you've kind of led us.
It feels
into...
like easily 100.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's at least 100. You've led us into this next thing, which is an embarrassing story. So if you get it wrong, you've got to tell us an embarrassing story that's happened to you. If you get it right, I'll tell an embarrassing story that's happened to me, which is actually, I've got one prepped from last week. We learned in this episode that an arsenic mixture was used early on in the embalming process to keep a body preserved for a really long time. Alexander the Great was preserved in a way that predates the use of arsenic. Which one of these preserved the body of Alexander the Great?
I was just reading about that fool too.
Is that right? I wonder if you stumbled upon this. A, tar, B, honey, or C, wine?
I didn't read anything about this part.
Okay.
But I was reading about it because I saw a video where they were talking about a story of him going down in a diving bell.
Oh.
And I had not heard that one, so I was looking it up and skimming that fun tale. But it didn't mention how he died or what they did with him after. What would work? Honey I know they use that in a lot of stuff, like Pliny the Elder was just putting honey on everything, kind of regardless of what was wrong with you. Um, and just the ants, like that wouldn't preserve you. The ants would come and get you.
You would think, right?
Um, Wine would probably work. You would be quite purple. So you just look like a dead grimace.
Yeah.
A dead grimace mummy.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Grimace.
birthday, Grimace, by the way. I know we missed it by like a week.
Yeah.
But tar doesn't seem like a good thing to put on anyone living or dead. But it would probably get the job done. Like all the I guess animal is there another word for mummy if it's an animal? Like if you were a saber-toothed tiger that fell in the La Brea tar pits, are you a tar mummy?
I think it would still be considered.
That feels like I shouldn't say it.
Yeah, mummified, you would say, but actually calling it a mummy seems wrong.
I'm gonna say tar.
You're gonna say tar. The answer, it's honey. It's honey. So all three of these.
Then the ants are just gonna eat.
You would think all three of these were things that had been used to preserve bodies. Tar, like just different types of tree sap were used. Honey was used. They basically. So this was from the ancient Assyrians. Herodotus noted that the ancient Assyrians embalmed their dead in honey, and after he died in 323 BC, Alexander the Great was reportedly immersed in a golden sarcophagus brimming with honey. So brimming. So I guess they just dipped him in a vat of honey and put the lid on. And
he's in there like Luke Skywalker in the back
in the
tank.
carbonite. Yeah,
it's not just like a coating; he's like floating in it.
Right, I guess so. But the other thing about that is no one knows where Alexander the Great is buried because the word is that they rerouted a river.
Yeah.
To go over where he was buried so that his grave couldn't be disturbed.
Also, he might not even have been a real dude.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know a lot about this theory, but there is one that it's just like he's just like a little superhero. Like they just wrote stories about this cool guy.
You would think that they wouldn't choose a name that was so on the nose for that. Like Alexander the Great sounds like a name of a fake person.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we write about guys named Superman.
That's true.
It's a little spot on.
That's true. But like, it's like if a 6-year-old was writing a story about a fictional superhero, Alexander the Great sounds like something they would come up with.
He's got wherever he is, he's so sticky.
Right?
Yeah, that's my biggest fear in life.
Being buried in honey?
Being sticky.
Oh, sticky. Yeah, and honey really is. Maple syrup is probably worse than honey, though, right?
Oh, real maple syrup? No. The like
Waffle House
Mrs.
maple
Butterworth, where it's like the corn syrup one. Yeah. That's terrible.
Oh yeah, it's on everything.
If you get a little bit of regular maple syrup on you, because it's runnier.
Yeah, and you get it on the bottom of your plate or your back or the part of your fork that you hold. That's the worst. Yeah, you have to go wash the end of that fork.
You got to get a new fork.
That's true. Yeah,
you got to go to a different restaurant.
Excuse me, can I have my check? I got a little bit of maple syrup on my fork.
Yeah, I got to. This whole situation just became unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like, do you want? We can get you a new plate.
No, this is for you.
I
Keep
need
the
to
change.
take a shower.
I gotta go now.
This is unforgivable.
Yeah. So, do you have an embarrassing story?
I mean, I do. The show that I was driving back from, when I stopped in Chicago, I was doing a show at a golf course. It was like bring your friend to the golf day or whatever they called it, where it's like members could bring a friend for a round of golf. They'd all been playing golf out in the sun for however long golf takes, about probably one rosary's worth. I don't know the speed of golf. I've never played.
4 hours is generally what they say.
Yeah, so they're drinking in the sun for about 4 hours, and then they come into the clubhouse, all get in line for like dinner.
Yeah,
and then they're gonna like sit down and eat. And they gave my agent the wrong time, so I think I'm getting there an hour early. I'm 15 minutes late, but also all the golfers are late, so it's not that big of a deal. But they still seem pretty mad about it. And then like, we're just gonna have you start You just stand here. There's not a stage. There's just like a corner of a dining room. The sound system is obviously terrible. It doesn't sound good at all.
Right.
And then they're just like coming into the room and lining up to get food from a buffet. And I'm like, can we wait until they sit down at least? And they're like, no,
Oh,
you're just going to do it this way.
The
I
deck
was
was
like, it'll
stacked
really be
against you.
better if we can like push it back a little bit, like let everybody get some food. I'll do jokes while they're eating. That's fine. But
Yeah.
I can't tell jokes to a buffet line.
Right.
And she's like, well, you're gonna. So it's supposed to do an hour. After like 20 minutes of it going about as well as I think anybody listening would expect that situation to go, the guy who organized the event's like, hey, we're just gonna read the golf scores now. And I was like, yeah, that's what you should do. Yeah, you should stop.
I'm sorry.
This.
That's the worst. I'm
And
sorry that happened.
it was rough because it's like, yeah, I mean, this feels bad. It's
right.
like anytime you have a bad
this isn't
show,
good for
feel
anyone.
good.
Right.
But it's like, well, none of this is my fault. Like, I don't feel guilty.
I'm glad that you have the
they still paid
awareness
me, right?
like to know that.
I had another kind of rough show where it's like, yeah, you know what? I probably could have been a little better prepared for this situation.
Yeah.
But I also still took their money too. But the golf people, it's like, yeah, you should pay me more for how bad of a job you did organizing this.
Was the buffet like in front of the stage?
There wasn't even a stage. People had to walk past me to get to where the food was. And there was like one table really paying attention. So I was just playing to them.
Yeah.
They had a great time. I talked to those guys after. I hope I hope they survived the fire from when I lit the place on my way out. But yeah, there's just like people walking in front of me, standing in line, talking amongst themselves at the tables. Like, this is not gonna be good. But I will also, I've been doing this long enough where it's like, I'll stand there and bomb for an hour. I don't care. Like, tell me how long you want me to do. I will talk for that long.
Yeah.
Because then I can still make you pay me. Essentially, like if I'm supposed to do an hour and I stop after 20 minutes and then somebody's like, well, we're not going to give you the check. I'm like, you do have a case there. I guess.
Yeah, because that's how the rest of the world works, is you get paid for time, not for, showing
this contract says I will perform for an hour. It doesn't say the show's going to go good.
Yeah.
It just says stand there and talk.
They didn't see the asterisk.
You can be done.
The asterisk on the bottom that said performing can also be considered just reading a book into a microphone for the last 40 minutes.
Minute.
Yeah.
I hope you guys like Gatsby.
That's right.
It always feels a little, even like, I don't feel personally responsible for it not going well, but anytime it doesn't go well, it doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't. And it's hard to leave and drive away. And there's something about it. You just feel like a prostitute. You're like,
especially when they make you drive to Wisconsin.
Yeah, right.
I drove overnight from Jersey to Wisconsin for this show.
Ugh.
And then bombed after a third of the time I was supposed to do was sent home.
Yikes.
And then I had to do a show the next day from a car in Chicago. So my career's thriving, I think, is the takeaway.
I love it though. Like, you're a road warrior. Literally, that is you don't get more.
Like, there's times where I've had a bad show where it's like, I didn't have a good set.
Yeah,
those are the ones where you're like,
should
I be doing this at all? Do I have to learn accounting? Like, what's it gonna be?
There's no rewriting that you do after a show like that, other than maybe like the contract. Like, being more. But that's on. It is
weird sometimes when you're doing a show and you're just like, oh, these people, for a reason I will never know, don't like anything about me or what I'm saying.
What do you do?
And it's like, I know these jokes work, because like if it's not going well, that's when you like really fall back on older material that works. And then when that also doesn't work, you're like, I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know what about what's going on you guys don't like so much, but it's got to be me. Like, that's the only thing I can think of.
Well,
and then you just drive away a little sad.
Probably the problem was you're not Matt Rife. You're not 25
My
with
abs
muscles
are not
and
comparable.
and 100% crowd work. So
very little, actually. I am loath to actually talk to anyone in the audience directly, because
what do you put on TikTok if it's all, that's what everyone puts on TikTok, because that way they don't burn their material.
That's what I've heard. I would rather post the same joke from 10 different sets.
Yeah, just to show you're solid.
Like, I've done that a couple times where it's like, I've been doing this since 2009. I have some albums and specials. Like I have a body of work I can pull from for clips and stuff.
Yeah,
But I feel like I've pulled out all the good 1 minute clips
sure.
of stuff I've had recorded over the years, like professionally. Like I have a ton of shows on my phone that I could go through, but I don't want to.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. I would rather go back and do that. I would rather just write new jokes. But I think the idea of burning material is kind of dead too. Like
Yeah, could be.
it used to be, oh, if you do it on Carson, then that's it. Everybody's heard it. But you can have 5 million people watch your TikTok video, and then none of those people are coming to your show. So
Right.
you still do that joke.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it's
matter.
different for social media. Yeah. All right. Well, we've come to the end. You're 3 for 4. And today's last question is for all of the marbles. So if you get this one right, you'd be welcome back on the show. If you get it wrong, banned from the show forever. Today's topic was about unidentified bodies, and I thought I'd lighten the mood a little bit with this last question, but sticking with the theme of people we don't know, what is one question that you can ask any stranger that will tell you the most about that person?
I wish I could take credit for this, but it's just I saw it online and it struck me as like a genuinely kind of good suggestion. You ask someone what who their favorite Muppet is.
Oh.
Because if they're like, I don't have one, that person, you don't need to spend any more time talking to them.
Sure.
That's a sociopath is what you got on your hands.
Sure.
Because it doesn't matter what they say. It is kind of like read how excited they get to talk about the Muppets.
Yeah.
Or like they'll explain. I've done it a couple times now, and nobody ever just says Kermit and stops talking.
There's
They're
always
like,
a
I
reason.
love Kermit because he's kind of the
Yeah.
leader. He keeps everybody on task. Like there's a
Okay.
lot of ridiculous stuff going on around him, but he always stays grounded. Or
Sure.
they're like, oh, I love Gonzo because I've always seen myself as like kind of a weirdo, and I thought he was really relatable. And I
Yeah.
love chickens like that. That's usually the kind of answer that you get.
Yeah. How about you? I have to ask now.
Oh, Fozzie for sure.
Fozzie,
absolutely,
right?
100%.
Yeah,
Fozzie
probably have
Bear.
that in common with maybe other comedians.
Yeah.
For me, it's a toss up, but it's definitely someone in the band. It's either like Dr. Mayhem, Janice, or Animal. Animal's hard to be. It doesn't talk, but the reason is the band has an edge to it that the rest of the Muppets don't have. There's something
absolutely.
about that edge that I've always thought was like super cool. It feels like a little bit underground. They're not the most.
The scene where they meet the band in the first movie is great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're
It's like
in
a
the
real
church.
band. Yeah. Yeah.
They did the show finally, but it was like for years, it's like, why doesn't the Electric Mayhem just tour? Like
Right.
I would go.
Yeah.
I've seen the Muppets in concert.
Why don't they? That
and
would be
it's
amazing.
like, why are you guys doing this all the time? Especially because when I saw them, it was like before the Jason Segel movie had come out, where it's like the Muppets weren't as big. It's
Sure.
like you've got the puppets, you've got the performers,
And it doesn't
You're
even
not
need to be
doing a lot.
anything live. That whole thing could be pre-recorded, and you wouldn't even.
They did one in
you would
LA a
need to
couple
be
years
puppeteers.
ago.
Did they?
Yeah, it was like the Muppets at the Hollywood Bowl,
Okay.
I think. I forget where they did it. When I saw it, they were doing it at Carnegie Hall, and it was just like a daytime show aimed at children. But my wife and I went before our kids were born. We're just like, yeah, we want to see the Muppets.
Yeah.
It was just like us and a bunch of 10-year-olds with their parents. We're like, yeah, this is great.
Actually, yeah, it sounds pretty great. I would go and see it. Our age is like one of those things where Muppets are a huge part of nostalgia and everything now too, because that was great television. Well, you did amazing, and I'm going to call that a correct answer, and something that I'm going to now talk to
I will
people
someday
about.
go 5 for 5 on this podcast.
4 for 5. I thought you were going to do it today, but we got caught up on the
I think I've done 3 or 4 every time.
on Alexander the Great. So
Stupid Alexander's not even a real guy.
Not even a real guy.
There in honey, making me get questions wrong.
Tell people where you want them to see your comedy.
You can find me on Blue Sky Social at Glenn Tickle. It's just at Glenn Tickle everywhere. The new special, Glenn Tickle Against the World Crime League, will be out on my YouTube channel, which is YouTube/Glenn Tickle, sometime later this year.
All right.
I will actually probably have a date by the time this comes out.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure to let people know. Go check out Glenn Tickle and listen to some of his jokey jokes about having the name Tickle. And and everything else. His TikTok's great.
Also about Jurassic Park. That comes up frequently.
Jurassic Park. Yeah, if you enjoy jokes about Jurassic Park, and there are many to be made. Anyway, thanks again, man, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that is all for this week. Thank you so much to Glenn Tickle for being my guest. Here's the voice of a small British mummy.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it! See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Denny Corby, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge. All audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 USC Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent. The Internet Says It's True is part of the WCBE podcast experience.